Okay, so hey Hack Club. My name is Sahidi Desari, and I am a high school hack clubber here in Atlanta. And I'm very excited to do this co-host with Aiden today, and we are introducing George Hotz. He's the founder of Comma AI, the company trying to make autonomous driving chill. He recently fired himself from the company and created Tiny Corporation. And on the side, he streams on Twitch. As a teenager, George was the first person to hack the iPhone. He created his own self-driving car in less than a month, and he won ISEF 3 times. So without further ado, please everyone put your hands together for the one and only George Hotz.
I wouldn't say I won
Awesome.
ISEF 3 times. I'd say I won once. I went 3 times.
Okay. Same thing. Hey, my name is Aiden Bai. I'm your co-host for today. I'm a hack clubber from Portland, Oregon. I work on an open source project called Million.js, where I use compilers to make the web faster. I also went to ISEF a couple of times. That was a good experience, except during COVID, it's all online. So that's okay. We're all online right now.
But they did online ISEF? Oh, man.
Yeah, they.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Stay tuned after the show for a showcase of projects from hack clubbers like me, Cedric, and
recording in progress. This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so some quick rules. Please be sure to be muted if you're not talking or you're not being called on. Raise your hand if you have a question, your Zoom hand, and George will answer. Please make sure you say where you're from, your name, and keep it short or we will cut you off because we've been practicing doing that. So I would love to start. Hi, George. My name is Sahidi, as I said, and as a student, I'm really interested in entrepreneurship and starting a business. And I actually plan on doing that after I get through high school, and I want it to be tech related, of course. So as an entrepreneur, what's one thing you love most and one thing you hate most about entrepreneurship?
First off, I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur. Look, I'll say this, 95% of the people I met in the hacking world were good people. There were 5% who were bad. The business world has this flipped. 95% of the people I've met in the business world are legitimately bad people. Bad people in the sense of they want to play zero-sum or negative-sum games, right? Like most people in the hacking world actually do largely want to play positive-sum games. You can say something like, oh, I want to, distribute these movies free to everybody. But that actually is sort of positive-sum, right? Versus the other side, the companies that like, I want to make sure that we're restricting this movie so that people can only watch it, right? See, and that's business. So look, I would never call myself an entrepreneur. And I think that a lot of people who do, like, if you want to run a business, one piece of advice, make more money than you spend, right? A lot of people think, oh, I can raise VC money and this is free money. It's not free money. You pay with your soul. It's true. So yeah, I mean, think about how am I going to become profitable? And then a lot of times when you're becoming profitable, there's certainly ways to be profitable and to be aligned with value creation, right? So you can be profitable and not aligned with value creation. You can be profitable and trying to destroy value. Say my profit comes from, robbing orphans, right? Well, that's not very good, but if my profit comes from providing a service to people and the people like the service, I'd say, what do I pay for that I like? I pay for HBO Max, I pay my $15 a month. I watch The White Lotus. It's a good show. Everybody wins. So yeah, be profitable and don't get caught up in hype.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
Yeah, so recently I've been tuning into your TinyGrad Twitch streams, and I've been also following the GitHub a little bit. What's your opinion on, well, actually, first, could you share a little bit about TinyGrad and your opinion on commercial open source? Is that a good balance between like the entrepreneurial side and also, so the business side and also the hacker side?
What is commercial open source?
Like, have you heard like, kind of like OpenPilot where it's open source, the product is open source, but they sell stuff. For example, like cal.com, they sell like a calendar service, but their entire service is open source. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to fund open source, right? Don't let me think that making money is bad. Making money is good. Again, especially if you're providing this money in a very aligned way. The open source business model where people are like, we'll run the server for you. Or I saw one. Again, these aren't going to be huge billion-dollar businesses, but they're businesses I can respect. The kind of business where it's like, look, you want to compile open source and do it all yourself, you can. Or if you want managed updates, pay us $10 a month, right? Where you can charge for convenience, but still make all the code available. That's a nice business model. I mean, you should totally find a way to fund it, right? Like, I don't like charity. I think charity is a bad use of here. I'll explain why, right? So people say, I'm going to give $1,000 to charity, right? Well, charity's going to spend that $1,000, right? Let's say we're doing something good. Let's say we're mosquito nets in Africa. That's a big. We're gonna spend $1,000 on mosquito nets. Now, how about this? What if instead you took that $1,000, used it to start a company, started making $1,000 a month, and then donated $100 a month to mosquito nets, right? You'd be more than, after 10 months, you'd actually have given more total, right? So charity as this thing that just consumes money, I think is bad. So yeah, I mean, to come back to the question, sure, have a business model, make your open source sustainable.
Yeah, that's a really good mindset. I think I completely agree with you on that. Just so for the crowd, make sure you turn on your cameras for the AMA. And so, yeah, I think I'll leave it to Sahidi to get questions from the crowd.
Okay, so again, raise your hand if you have any questions you'd love to ask George, and we can call on you.
I don't know how Zoom works, I've been on like 3 Zoom calls in my life. How Zoom works.
Fox, go ahead.
All right, yo, I'm Fox 16 or 17 from Georgia. And what I wanted to ask you was, when you were originally hacking the iPhone back when you were 17, why did you do it? Like, what made you interested, or what made you want to do what you did? It's basically what I'm trying to say.
All right. So like, whenever I hear questions like that, I hear stuff, people are like, oh, what's your passion? How did you get interested in it? And again, I think this whole framework is totally.
Oh.
Sorry, George,
I'm
I
so
think
sorry.
you've muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how Zoom works, like I said. So whenever I hear questions like that, my people say like, oh, how do you develop your passion? People say things like, find my passion. This isn't how it works at all. It's a compulsion, right? Everybody I know who is really good at something does it as a compulsion. If you find someone who's really good at chess, they just compulsively play chess and it's all they think about, right? So it's the exact same thing, right? It becomes compulsive, it becomes addictive. And if you don't feel that way, you're not like going to just go discover like, I don't know, maybe my passion is golf. Let me buy an expensive set of golf clubs and find out. That's never going to be how it works. If you find that you just like can't stop, that you're driving, you shouldn't check your phone, but you're checking golf scores, man. All right, then maybe you got something there. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. So, what made me want to do it? Well, I went on WikiHow and I searched for how to find my passion, and then see, right? I'm kidding. It was a compulsion. I bought the iPhone and I was like, I'm gonna make it work, and it didn't work, and then make it work.
I'm happy you feel a similar way.
Cool.
Okay, thank you, George. Claire, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so I'm Claire. I'm a high schooler in Boston. I'm from LA. And I guess you talked about the whole idea of like compulsion and like just like exploring interest through stochastic means. But there's sometimes it's not necessarily always realistic if you have like different environments. So like what are things that you think should be changed about like student education systems or just like resources that people can get access to in a reasonable manner? And like, do you have any ideas or have you thought about that?
You all have the internet, right? I look like back in the day, I hear all this stuff today where it's like some people have access to more stuff than other people. And like, look, I don't know, man. Like we all have the same internet. It's about where you go and where you spend your time and what you do on it. Uh, yeah, and that's like school's a test. Like it's not. Don't expect school to like. School is not okay. So I don't know if they probably don't tell you this in school, but school does not exist to educate you, right? Think about why. Right? Think about why would we want to quote unquote, well, what does the word educated mean, right? Like they say that school is designed to educate you. Well, does that mean to tell you a whole bunch of random facts? Or does that mean to give you skills that are useful in the job market? Or does that mean to indoctrinate you into a political system? Right? So think about what the actual purpose of school is and why it exists, and then ask yourself why it doesn't get better, right? And better to you may not be better to the people who effectively run school, right? And I'm not positing like a conspiracy theory here. There's a bunch of evil people who run school. I'm saying that when you just look at the incentive structure of the education system, it may not be aligned with your incentive structure. So what would I change? Go on the internet and make sure you're going to the right places.
Thank you.
Pragya, would you like to go next?
Hey George, I'm Pragya from India, and I'd like to ask you that what was the biggest opportunity you had till date?
What was the biggest opportunity?
What was the biggest opportunity you had till date?
I'm sorry. Opportunity I had what?
What was the biggest opportunity you had till date?
Opportunity I hacked?
Biggest opportunity you've had to date?
Oh, biggest opportunity I've had to date. Oh, there's another word. There's another word. All these words like opportunity and entrepreneur and this is the other one. Like, I don't know. I just like, I don't like believe in this stuff, right? Like, what do you mean opportunity? You make your own opportunity, right? Like there's this whole framework or like the deliberate nature of it, like, oh, and then I don't know. I really don't kind of like understand the question. Like it's not the framework that I look at the world with. You know, I don't know. I'm a guy who found computers, and it's a compulsion, and I probably couldn't have found anything else.
Also, coming to the next question, what is your plan for the next 5 years?
So how many of you believe in the singularity? Right. And I know this is like rough stuff. Look, I found this stuff when I was 15. Kind of messed me up for a while. Right. You kind of come to grips with it, but we're all still coming to grips with it. Right. So humanity, if you take a human from, say, 1900 and you bring them to now, they wouldn't be that different. Right. They would they'd probably be as smart as people are now for the most part. There'd be a few things they don't know, but there'd be a few things they're probably better at. So like, humans haven't really improved much. Whereas if you take a computer from 1900, you can't. There actually weren't any computers. I can go back and take a computer from 1970, and it's so inferior to my iPhone. Computers are getting better at an exponential rate, right? And I actually mean exponential. A lot of people, when they say the word exponential, they don't mean it, but computers are getting better at an exponential rate, Moore's law. So when you think about the future, there will be a point where computers pass humans, right? If humans are flat and computers have let's say this is logarithmic, y-axis, so I have a linear scale. There's a point where computers cross over. The question that I spend kind of my whole life thinking about is, where do you want to be when that happens? So no, to answer explicitly where I want to be in 5 years, I want to be a billionaire and I want to be on a yacht.
That's great. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. Yeah. Let's go next one. Abby, would you like to go?
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm 16 and I'm from Los Angeles. I totally agree with where you want to be in 5 years. Me too. My question for you is I was wondering what's your favorite book and why?
Um, oh, just because we're gonna make this controversial. I'm gonna say Atlas Shrugged. How many people have read it? I'd say for when I was older, I read Infinite Jest, and I really liked that. I just read the corrections, and I really liked that. But Infinite Jest is a book for your mid-20s, and the corrections is a book for your mid-30s. Atlas Shrugged's a good book for a 15, 16-year-old, I think. It's it's a book about a woman who runs a train company. Despite what people might say about it. And like all things, don't take it too seriously. But I think it has some interesting principles in it that are kind of contrary to maybe the way a lot of people talk. So we'll go with that.
Thank you.
Cool. Next person. Let's go with Ellen.
Lovely. I'm Ellen from San Diego. I actually participated in the Comet AI treasure hunt in San Diego a while back. I didn't find the hat, but learned a bit and played around with GNSS, which was fun. But yeah, so you talked a bit about how mental frameworks are pretty important and how a lot of it is like kind of anchored on like a lot of big words or educational values that are kind of indoctrinated. So I was curious, what's your framework for viewing the world, or like how you look at problems and what you want to solve?
Like I can answer this sort of in two ways. There is an actual answer, but like I don't spend too much time being deliberate or like thinking in the meta, or even like where do you want to be in 5 years, right? Like these things are kind of very like you okay. Do you know what the concept of a homunculus is? Right, the idea that there's a little man inside your brain, pulling levers, and that's who operates your body, right? Like if you think about it, maybe this is kind of how you might think about yourself, right? There's a little thing inside my brain, but well, then of course you have a recursive problem because who's inside the little man? Well, there's a smaller man pulling the lever, right? It's little man all the way down. So, like, I don't really view myself in that way. I don't really have a deliberate like framework for how to view things. Now, there are some frameworks that are very useful, but I would not say they're frameworks for how to live life, right? So, the rationality framework. Have you read like The Sequences, Eliezer Yudkowsky? These things are very much worth reading. Maybe another good book, very accessible. Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. These are good. These are good sort of ways to think about things. Or Robin Hanson's books. So look, rationality is very good, but be aware that rationality can only answer is questions, not ought questions. So you have this is a classic problem in moral philosophy. You have like, the sun is shining, okay? We ought to go outside. And there's a distinction between is and ought. And you can only use science and rationality to answer is questions. You can't use them to answer ought questions. So rationality is a good framework for is questions, and you got to find your own answers to the ought questions.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think I'll go next. So yesterday I took an AP Gov test on political lobbying. And I don't know if this is kind of random, but I'm wondering what's your thoughts on the current political system? Like what I'm learning in class, like makes me rethink everything I've learned for the first like 16 years of my life. Like, what's your thoughts on the current political system, and maybe how can we solve it right now?
Yeah, so I'm sure maybe some people in this chat think of themselves more as Democrats or think of themselves more as Republicans. Of course, this is a scam, basically. And the best way to think about this is like these people are on the opposite side of the power line than you, right? to really understand what what the American political system looks like, it's best to study political systems from the past because it's not all that different. We are not radically enlightened now, but now we have democracy. I mean, no, people have had democracy, and I'm not saying democracy is bad, but I'm saying that the people who had a king weren't idiots, right? It's easy to think that people in the past were backward and idiots, but that's not really true, right? And we talked about this before about humans have been. There's kind of three systems politically. There's democracy, there's oligarchy, and there's monarchy, and all systems kind of are somewhere on that spectrum. But I would argue, and maybe this is just a way to start thinking about the American political system. It's not a democracy, it's an oligarchy, right? And unless I would say, I'm certainly not, that nobody here is in the oligarchy, right? Both the Democrats and Republicans are. So, just keep in mind that the political system isn't exactly what it claims to be. So
I think that's a really lovely take on it. It's very unique. Claire, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I just asked the question, but I kind of heard you brought up Ayn Rand, but you also bring up Eliezer Yudkowsky in his book, and you also talk about charities and how it's not good to donate to charities. And so what is your take on whole EA and everyone donating to GiveWell and the whole concept of it's okay to rationalize some bads for some future good? What are your thoughts on that? I was really curious.
So first off, I would like to talk about a great effective altruist who's doing so much good for the world. His name is Sam Bankman-Fried. He runs this company called
Amazing.
He stole. But no, he did it for the greater good. I think Mark Andreessen just tweeted that utilitarianism should be banned. I posted on Instagram yesterday. I was like, GM to everyone except effective altruists. Yeah, this is exactly the problem. The problem is these people can start to rationalize, well, look, man, if I go stab 10 orphans, we can save 100 people in Africa. And, surely that's, no, what kind of moral philosophy justifies this? So no, I'm not a fan of, it's not to say that the idea of GiveWell and the idea of charities using money effectively is bad. Obviously, these are good things. I think that corporations are a lot better than charities. I'm a much bigger fan of Apple than any charity, right? I think Apple's an incredible charity. I think they've added a ton of value to my life, way more than any charity, right? So I'm so happy when I give my $1,000 every year to Apple because they're going to give me a better iPhone next year, right? So yeah, look, I would just the EA people all kind of, I see some cult-like thinking there. So, and if you have a political system that says it's okay to stab one person to save 10, well, you're not God.
That was a really interesting take, and I think I agree with a lot of it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Zach, would you like to go next?
Yeah. All right, George. So say when you got on the Zoom call, you didn't get a Zoom call at all. And you look around you and suddenly you don't know how it happened, but you teleported back to the year 500 BC. And you don't know how you got there. You don't know what happened, but somehow everyone there is treating you like you're the dictator of the world. And what you also realize that you're on one of 5 identical Earths. I'm sorry, you're on one of 3 identical Earths. And in 2,522 years from now, in the year 2022, there's going to be a great war between these 3 Earths, and only one Earth is going to survive. The question is, what do you do as dictator of the world in 500 BC to best increase your Earth's chance of survival? You can start anywhere. The war is inevitable. You can't teleport and you're going to die. You only have the rest of your lifetime to put your plans into action.
Yeah. So whenever I think about things like this, I think in terms of technology trees, right? If you played some RTS games, like Factorio or any even Age of Empires, StarCraft, you want to think about how to get as quickly down the tech tree as possible, because fundamentally, whoever wins that war is going to be who's furthest down the tech tree, right? Let's say if one, Earth has nuclear weapons and the other side has, guys on horseback with a sword, but you don't understand, they have honor. Well, I'm sorry about your honor, but it's not really gonna save you. So yeah, you want to get down the tech tree as far as possible. So what would I do in my lifetime? I'd be like, yo man, I'm gonna die anyway. Honestly, this sounds like future Earth's problem. I'm dictator of the world. I don't know, build me a large pyramid. But also, here's the tech tree and, just go figure it out. But yeah, I mean, what do? You write down as much science as you remember. And you try to get people replicating stuff as quickly as possible.
In your view, why didn't the Renaissance happen sooner? Or why is all the tech in Silicon Valley? Is innovation a culture problem, or is it just a technology and economics problem?
No, I think it's a culture problem. I think that, you know what? If you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have had a good answer to it. But today I've seen cultures that are very anti-technology. And yeah, I mean, it was something that was always really hard for me growing up, was you read about like the wars between the Protestants and the Catholics, right? And, if I look at this, I'm like, what? You guys like believe all the same stuff? Like, this is just weird, man. But, then you look at like modern, Democrats and Republicans, and you're like, this is the exact same thing. So yeah, I think that it is sort of a culture problem to an extent. And I think if we had the right sort of culture, we could move things along a lot faster.
And what does that look like? Like, what is the right kind of culture in your view?
I mean, these things are like, well, first off, I gave a talk at South by Southwest about called it Jailbreaking the Simulation. And like, let's say we're in a simulation right now. I mean, maybe one thing that could motivate us is to figure out how to get out. And it doesn't even quite matter if that's true or not. But if everyone on Earth tomorrow decided with religious fervor that we were going to try to get out of the simulation, well, I think the world would be a lot better than it is today. First off, we've all united against a common enemy, right? Humanity is never going to escape us versus them paradigms. But you can choose who the them is, right? You can be racist and choose another race. You can be nationalist and choose another country. Or you can choose nature as a them. And I've always liked nature as a them because, we actually can conquer nature. We will conquer nature. We will build, we will not suffer when it is 45 degrees outside. We will build heaters. We will not suffer when it's 90 degrees outside. We will build air conditioners. We will not suffer when it is dark outside. We will build lights. And it is that culture, I think, that can lead to future progress. At least that's the world I would like to live in, right? But it is all subjective fundamentally. I don't know. I mean, I want to live forever in virtual reality with my AI girlfriend. So, these are going to require lots of real technology. There's a lot of hard problems to solve. So.
Well, and sorry, last thing before, and I know I'm kind of hogging some time. How do you square that with like the inherent moral value of nature? Animals clearly have moral value. Nature around us has moral value. Beauty has value to humans, even if you take a purely humanist worldview. How do you square those two things? Because I don't know about you, but like a world without a thriving environment and nature, I'm also like, hey, let's build giant cities, let's colonize the universe. I'm with you, I'm pro tech, but I don't know. I mean, I struggle with how do you square that while with also helping have a beautiful environment and world around you.
So I think perhaps the greatest document of the 20th century is the Unabomber Manifesto. I think it will be viewed in history as very similar to the Communist Manifesto was viewed in the 19th century, right? The Communist Manifesto in the 19th century went on to shape a lot of 20th century history. And I think that the Unabomber Manifesto, published in like 95, will shape a lot of 21st century history. And that right there is the crux of the problem, and I don't have an answer to it.
And what's articulated in it? Like what are the key ideas?
Well, the main problem is like, what do we do about the manifesto is called Industrial Society and Our Future. And it explores this dichotomy, and I think his conclusions are completely wrong. I also thought Karl Marx's conclusions were completely wrong, but we should abolish private property. I don't know about that, but he identifies the problems very well, and you can imagine a world where we are effectively reduced to the status of automatons, like this idea of the beauty of nature, or this idea of the moral value of the natural world is necessary. It's how do you square those two things? And he doesn't really have an answer, but he lays out the problem pretty clearly. And I think that whoever does manage to answer that, will play a big part in shaping the future. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Super interesting.
I know that I want to live forever. And let's just start with the first one there, right? Right. So, sorry about the dogs and the chickens and stuff, but I'm not going to feel bad about it, right?
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach, and thank you, George. Maggie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, George. I'm Maggie, 17 years old, from the Bay Area. And my question is, why did you decide to start working on comma.ai? Like, why did you pick the problem of self-driving cars and not something else?
I met with Elon. We were talking about a contract for me to work for him to do it. Kind of changed the terms of the contract at the last minute. And I wanted to beat him. I saw in Mr. Elon Musk, the now richest man in the world, a worthy adversary. If he's Batman, I'm the Joker. So that's why I wanted to beat Elon. I still do.
That's an amazing origin story.
All a good competition, though, right? It's good competition that drives the world forward, right?
Yeah. Next, Pranav.
Hey,
he can be Edison. I'll be
Seattle.
Go.
Hey, I'm a high schooler from the Seattle area, and you mentioned the singularity earlier. I'm curious what your thoughts are on AI risk and alignment, and by AI risk, I mean like mass catastrophe thinking husband.
By AI risk, you mean what?
Mass catastrophe, like extinction.
Yeah. So first off, I think a lot of people view AI risk completely wrong. A lot of people view AI risk as a technical problem, as a math problem. I don't think it is. I think AI risk is a political problem, similar to the problem of nuclear weapons, right? It's not going to be, I do not think that a rogue AI is accidentally going to go out of control and wipe humanity out. I think that one group of humans will build AI in order to use it against another group of humans. But this group of humans will also build it, right? And this is very similar to what we saw with nuclear weapons. I think that, AI alignment is solving political structures and solving culture are very similar, are really the problem of AI alignment. AI alignment is not a trick in your optimizer, right? Because it's just like, I'm sorry, no, you don't understand. The goal was to kill those people. They are evil. Right. And if that person has AI, what can you really do about that? Right. That's my take on that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Also be aware of any, in general, arms control doesn't really work in general, where people are saying preventing, right? Like a treaty, maybe you could imagine a treaty in 1930 to prevent the development of nuclear weapons. I don't know, these things don't work, at least long term. So long term, we need stable solutions. I think one of the greatest things we can do to mitigate AI risk is, get off Earth as soon as we can. So if I were seriously concerned about that, I'd be working on not just be careful. Mars doesn't save you, right? You actually want to get away from Earth pretty close to the speed of light, and you want to make sure you don't look back, because they'll send the mind virus. Right? Some of y'all can probably read Infinite Jest. Some of you are probably better than I was verbally in high school. I know I couldn't read it in high school, but it's a very interesting trope in there, and I want you to think about it. When you read it, think about if you could actually build the tape. Yeah.
David, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm David. I'm from Montreal. So I'm wondering, you do a lot of things related to AI, obviously, and self-driving cars. Do you ever plan to use it in like military? Like you do self-driving cars and AI, but like what's stopping you from like making billions of dollars and like putting that in like war things, like because in like the Ukraine war, they got like you see more technology using AI. So do you ever plan to do any of that?
First off, nice background. Do I ever plan to do that? I'll tell you why I don't do that. Because I'll have to deal with some government people showing up and asking me stupid questions. Right? They're gonna come and it's not gonna be like you're not like dealing with a guy who's gonna like straight up talk, like get into the technicals right away. He's not gonna do that. No. Gonna sit there and there's gonna be a bunch of rigmarole and there's gonna be a government contract and there's gonna be a process, right? Here's something that I learned at Comma. And like you think like, okay, let's say I wanted to say, not even the military, let's just say I wanted to put Comma in Toyota cars, right? Well, I always assumed that companies were run like I could call up Mr. Toyota. And Mr. Toyota is the most knowledgeable guy at Toyota, and he runs everything there. This isn't how Toyota works at all. Toyota is actually this decentralized web of hundreds of thousands of people, and there is no like authority. It's just this like organism. It's this blob, right? And the military is the same way. So yeah, so why wouldn't I work with the military? Because it's not like we have like a good general who's going to show up and like be like, I can work with you. I'm reasonable. The generals today are bureaucrats.
So would you support like putting your technology in military?
I support. I look. I don't know. It's like from a moral perspective. I think that taking moral stances is really overblown. You're like, oh, I support it. I don't support it. Well, okay, we'll use it against those people. We won't use it against those people. Okay, we're only using it for good. We won't use it against American citizens. We'll just use it against Russians, or we'll use it against Ukrainians. We'll use it against. It's all the same. It's all the same bullshit.
Thank you.
Milani, you want to go next? Oh, where's she going? Okay. Maxim.
So, hi, Maxim. I'm a high school student from Belarus in Europe. So, I have what technologies do you consider the most promising now? For example, programming languages, frameworks, or even something more complex?
So, I mean, yeah, like there's been two cool ideas that like in the last sort of 10 years. One of them is deep learning and the other one is like Nakamoto consensus. Like it's the technology that underlies like Bitcoin. This idea that probably most of you'll know what deep learning is, so I won't really go into that, but Nakamoto consensus is a little more interesting. It's the idea that like large groups can reach group consensus in a very decentralized manner. And it wasn't clear that this was possible, but now that we know it's possible, there's lots of research into different parts of that. Homomorphic encryption is another area I find really interesting. This idea that like you can take a program and compile it and embed it in some kind of crypto system such that it doesn't leak any information except for explicitly the inputs you put in and the output you put out, and you can do this in a generic way. So that's another, like, if that's possible, that's really cool. I think SAT solvers have come a super long way. I just got Knuth's 4B Art of Computer Programming. He spends half of the book talking about SAT solvers. Do most of you all know what SAT is? If I said SAT, the Boolean satisfiability problem. Everyone should know that, right? That's an interesting, because I mean, this is the best way. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows the phrase P equals NP, but if you don't know what SAT is, you probably don't actually know what NP is. I think that in the next 10 years, we're going to see a factoring algorithm, a polynomial time factoring algorithm, and that's going to rock the world, man. Maybe not in the next 10 years, maybe the next 20 years, but that one's going to rock the world. Factorings in P. BQP equals P. And I see that's controversial. It's the most controversial thing I said on the podcast.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely have to look into that. Next up is Caleb, and looks like Cedric's there too.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ced. This is Caleb. We're at Hack Club HQ. I'm from Blacksburg, Virginia. Here at HQ, I've been writing the firmware for Hack Club's handheld console, which you can hear about after this call. So I heard you talking about things that people unite against. And I heard that banger that you dropped on SoundCloud right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I'm thinking, what did the pandemic show you about humankind? Like what conclusions can you draw about people after seeing how people reacted to the COVID-19 pandemic?
One thing about it horrified me. The fact that that cloth masks were mandated. Cloth masks do nothing to prevent the spread of respiratory disease. I'm not talking about other masks. I'm talking specifically about putting a t-shirt over your face. This does nothing. Viral particles are much smaller than the piece of cloth you put over your face. Everybody in 2019 knew this. Every doctor understood. It's right on the side of the box of the surgical masks. It says that this doesn't prevent respiratory disease. Even surgical masks, which are a little bit better than cloth masks, probably do nothing to prevent respiratory disease. You really think if there was a way to stop viruses with a t-shirt, your body wouldn't have evolved that? Right? The fact that we went into this mass delusion, and the fact that it was not just like a TikTok viral sensation, put a mask, save a life. The fact that governments mandated these things horrified me. And it showed me that mass psychosis was still within reach in today's world. We have not moved past any of these things. We like to think of ourselves as so advanced. We've made so much progress. And, I just, it shattered that illusion entirely for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. So George, we're a group of teenagers, as you know, and we're very self-involved. We think about ourselves. So we want to turn the tables on you. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask us?
Sure. How oppressive is school? And
How
if so,
oppressive?
yes. And if you think it's not oppressive, or if you think it is oppressive, what specifically is oppressive about it? And I wonder if that's changed over time.
So an aspect that I really feel is okay, so let me see if I'm defining this right. Something that I always feel like I am enclosed by is these rules that they have for almost every sort of assignment or every sort of thing that we have to turn in. It's always a grade, right? But there's always a strict box we have to fit into. There's a rubric that we have to follow. And that ultimately, like, the fact that I go to school to learn and try to better myself and do all these things, the fact that I have to be in this box the whole time, I don't feel like I am really applying my knowledge to the best of my capabilities. So that's something that I personally feel like is oppressive.
All right.
For me, I don't have a good answer because I think I'm brainwashed. So I've been in the school system for like so long.
Yeah.
When I go to school, I just don't think, I just do. I guess the main, like, when I go, like, here's my daily schedule. I go to school, I do school for 6 hours. I come home, I spend the next 6 hours doing homework or studying for a test. And then at 2 a.m., I start coding. Like, for me, I wish I had a good answer to it, but the only reason I don't like school is because I can't code or I can't work on my projects I like doing. So yeah.
I would say both of those things seem pretty similar to things I might have said, when I was in high school. I found a few things I really like. I was lucky. I went to a pretty tolerant high school. I did terribly in all my classes, but I spent most of my time just sitting in like the electronics lab and the robotics lab. So I hope those things still exist, and I hope that they are sort of free form enough, right? For me, a lot of what I got out of school was not the program itself, but the meta. right? For the first time, it's, you know, it's a really nice place with low consequences to test your powers against, you know, authority figures, right? Like, you know, you don't actually have to listen to the teachers. They can't shoot you.
Awesome. Actually, let's open to the floor to some hack lovers to answer that question if they have any contributions. So let's see. Does anyone who's raising their hand want to go? Caleb. Okay, Caleb, do you want to go?
Awesome. All right. Sorry, said again. Caleb's just here to look intimidating. I agree with the people who said earlier that the biggest thing that they felt like school took away from them was just like time that they could have spent doing things that they felt were meaningful to them. I can definitely relate to what you said about using schools and as a chance to disrupt bureaucracy and see what happens. Especially like running a network of like global clubs as Hack Club does. You end up like having a bunch of clubs that like don't get permission from their school, and then they have to, you know, just run meetings without the school's permission. And guess what? Like nothing happens. Like the bureaucracy is too self-absorbed to notice what all is going on. And so I think it's good at introducing you in the world that way. But the most impressive thing about school for me is that someone else gets to decide like the value system and like what is good about any subject, when it's so much more fun to find unexpected ways to apply things than be told that this tool is for this purpose and there's no other use for it. Like that's boring.
Yeah. You know, I wish I could spend a week going to high school and seeing like how much of this has really changed and how much of this are just universals, because I definitely believe that some of this, like, I believe that like grades, especially in like math, right? Like it's pretty hard to distort math. Right? You could say like, okay, you know, I'm learning calculus. I don't want to learn calculus, but like calculus is real, right? Or you know, physics is real, right? Like these subjects are not really distortable. So like to say that, oh, well, you know, I didn't want to learn thermodynamics. I wanted to learn, you know, the quantum physics instead. Like, I think that, like, I just wish that the people who did run these things were better. And actually, like, there's a value in a kind of classical education, because there are like things to know. And it's like, you don't want to let students run the school, right? Like you don't, I just wish that there were actual like enlightened adults who could, I don't know if they, I mean, a lot of the stuff you read is probably not true about like how they're like imposing agendas and stuff, but maybe it is.
Well, like, George, if you were an enlightened adult, why the hell would you end up in a school into the current arrangement?
Well, I mean, yes, this is always a, you know, those that can't do teach kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I was very lucky that I went to a really good high school, and like the people who set the school up were just like, you know, we're going to break this. We're going to make it better. And you know what? It was better for about 7 years. And then it declined, and the same sort of bureaucrats took over who run most schools today. But the guy who set up my high school was a chemistry PhD. He's just like, yo, you know, we're actually going to teach these kids science, man.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I think Reese has some ideas on this too. Reese, do you want to go?
Sure. Hi, I'm Reese. I'm a high schooler from Austin. I generally echo the sentiment that you're not allowed to do what you want, but I think the most oppressive part is when you get home, it doesn't end. It's not over when you go home.
Yeah.
You don't get home. You get school, and then you get school in disguise. It's disappointing to say the least. I think that's my main criticism. And then also the fact that like the grades, just you end up in this just like competitive, stressful, like race to get into a good college, and like you mess up 10 points here, 10 points there, and wow, now you are significantly behind like all of your classmates.
Yeah, and
it just gets tiring.
Like, don't compete in that race. I don't know. I mean, this is how I felt.
I mean, I
Yeah.
usually try not to, but then you know, you get your parents get pissed at you. And...
Yeah, you gotta talk. You know, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not gonna give you advice with this. This is between you and your parents. But I don't know. Like, whenever I see a whole group of people all trying to compete for like exactly the same thing, and this is what I saw, you know, again, very competitive high school, for a lot of pressure to go to a good college. I'm like, yo, what if I like just don't, man? What if I wrote like, I wrote like a nice song, all I want for Christmas is a college acceptance letter, right? There's like great, parodies of this. And like, it's just like, this stuff doesn't matter, man. Here's what matters: skills, acquiring
No, I completely
skills.
agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's just societal, like the pressure that just gets put on you. It's hard to break out of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
adding on to that, I totally agree. It's like this trap where like I know I want to do the stuff I want to do. Like I want to add on to like this business that I'm working on, these projects that I'm working on. I don't have time for that. I have to do homework. I am I can't I can't afford to fall behind. And that's like the cycle I feel like I'm stuck into. I feel like this school and the teachers, it's like this Hunger Games, but like it's different because your classmates are so competitive that it is like for your life out here, especially the older you get, the more closer you are to that like the college deadline. It's like I can't fall out at this point. I can't afford to. I put my whole life into this school thing.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, look, it has never been easier to if you lived in like 1900, yeah, like your opportunities are really not that great, right? You grow up on a farm. Yeah, I mean, college might like be a way out, right? This is what October Sky, you know that movie. um that's not true today. Like there has never been less value. College is more competitive than ever and less valuable than ever, right? The where you went to college, we don't look, right? I don't look. I don't care where people went to college. I get on the phone with you very quickly and I start asking you questions. I'm like, what's a servo motor? Okay. How do you control a servo? Okay, and you better start telling me about 20 millisecond pulse, 20 millisecond window with a 1.5 millisecond pulse, and it varies. And then I ask you stuff like what's high and what's low, and like 1.7, 0.7 volts. Greater than that is high, below that is low, right? Why is that? Well, because that's the threshold for transit, right? Like this is the stuff that matters. This other stuff really doesn't. And look, no one's gonna take my advice. No one's gonna actually take my advice because honestly, the balls that it requires to actually do that, to say, you know what, tomorrow, the thing that I've been working on for years, I'm done. That's real hard. But you can do it. You can do it. And most people won't. Most people won't. Most people will be like, you know what, man, I'm on this train. I'm not jumping off the train. That's crazy, man. But like you can. I'm not saying you should, but you can. So what I will say is this: you don't have to do it, but you do always have to know that it's a choice. No one's going to shoot you.
Yeah, I know a lot of hack clubbers like Zach. He dropped out of high school when he was 16. A bunch of other hack clubbers dropped out. So yeah, I think that type.
Well, I dropped out of high school is a whole extreme.
Okay, no, that's true. Yeah, so cool. Let's move the question. Let's open the questions to the board. We only have like 5-ish minutes left. So yeah, I think Jordan, you had your hand raised. Would you like to ask a question to George? Or like a lightning round question. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Okay. Okay, Max says spaces are.
I thought about dropping out of high school when I was 15. I'm glad I didn't do it. I do think high school forces you to socialize. It forces you to become socialized in a way that a lot of things don't. It forces you into uncomfortable situations that honestly is something I kind of miss. My life is incredibly comfortable now, and because it can be, right? But like, I think maybe that's a cultural problem too, but that's more in depth. Who cares, man? Spaces are tabs, light motor, dark one. I'm not gonna go into this. You want to know what keyboard I use too? It doesn't matter, man.
That's fair. Charlie, you had your hand raised. Would you like to go?
Yeah, hi. I mean, I was just when we were talking about the whole like high school thing. I mean, with what you were saying, I was very lucky to actually be able to go and just spend a year like working on a thing instead of like going and doing the whole college rat race. Um, and I mean, I agree with you basically completely with what you were saying on, you know, the social aspect of it is the real value there. Like I didn't miss the whole classes thing. I mean, it it's not even the, you know, grades or like I never cared about that, but it was far more of, you know, oh, the lack of control over time, you know, or even like when the subject would have been interesting, it's like, oh, I found this interesting enough that, you know, I'm not doing it at their pace, I'm doing it at this other pace. And
I think some amount of pressure is good though, and I
yeah,
think
no,
yeah, and
no, I
that's
mean, the issue is just that the pressure is non-variable for if you want more than what is being provided.
Sure.
Yeah. So sorry, I hate to be the, well, this is more of a comment than a question guy, but I guess that's what I just was.
Cool. I think next up is Pragya. Or yes.
I would like to ask that for peeps starting into AI and ML and fields like that. So, do you have any suggestions for them? Like, how should they start with and then carrying on to the field? So, if you had any suggestions, that would be great.
So look, I mean, there's only one way to ever get good at things, and it's kind of like to just do it, right? Like people are always like, where do I get started with programming? Well, like that's the wrong question, right? Like, how about this? Maybe you can think about it like learning another language, right? If somebody said, where do I get started with Spanish? Well, like, I mean, it's a bad question, right? Because you could say like, oh, well, you start with hola and adios. Like, no, you don't. If you're actually serious about learning Spanish, move somewhere where your life depends on speaking Spanish, and you'll learn Spanish quickly, right? So it's that, right? Like if you really want to do this stuff, you know, just move, put yourself in a position where your life depends on learning it. You'll figure it out.
Sure, thanks.
Get a Spanish puppy.
See, S for Dodd. Oh, so that was our final question. See, that's about how much my Spanish street knowledge will take me. But anyway, thank you everyone for coming. And I'll send off my co-host Sagidi, but stick back if you want to hear with our ship showcase to see what hackers have been doing. So yeah, Sagidi, do you have any words? Oh yes, wait, one last thing. Sorry. Can you do a pog face for us, like a pogger's face? So we have a tradition where every AMA guest with like a pog face, yeah. Would that be possible?
I got you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Awesome, Sahidi. Cool. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you want, George, if you want to stick around, we're having like like seeing what hackers have made. If you want to stick around and just like mute or you want to give some feedback, that'd be awesome. If not, that's okay too. Yeah.
Can we all just unmute for a minute and just say thanks so much to George for joining us?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was
Welcome, guys.
Thank you, mate.
Cool. I think we're gonna move into the ship showcase. I guess we want to kick it off with just said showcasing some